The Bewitching Pool, a portal to the truth beyond conflict. A metaphysical breakdown of the Twilight Zone Season 5, Episode 36. A child dives into a swimming pool and comes up reborn. Not in body, but in memory. Because the pool is not a body of water. It is a portal of grace, a gateway the ego cannot guard. This final episode of the Twilight Zone didn't end with spectacle. It ended with surrender. It ended with truth. The surface plot. Don't stay there. Sport and Jeb live in a house of war. Their parents have wealth but no warmth. A beautiful home filled with bitter blame. The children argue too, but after every fight they return to love. Jeb even says, "I love you, Sport." The parents never say it at all. Then something miraculous happens. A barefoot boy climbs from their swimming pool and beckons, "Follow me." He doesn't explain where. He doesn't answer questions. He just walks toward peace, and they follow. The pool is forgiveness. The pool isn't escape. It's forgiveness made visible. Not the kind that says, "You hurt me, but I'll tolerate you." But the kind that says, "You never really touched me, because love can't be harmed." The ego uses water to drown the Son of God. The Spirit uses water to show him he was never drowning. The pool is a portal to the real world, the place beyond judgment, beyond duality, beyond punishment. This is where Sport and Jeb discover Aunt T. This is where they remember what love actually is. Aunt T is the Holy Spirit. Aunt T is truth. She's not a rescuer. She's a revealer. She doesn't kidnap the children. She honors their choice. She tells them the voice of their mother will sound loud at first, but over time it will fade. Eventually they won't hear it at all. And at the end, when Sport hears her mother's voice calling again, she simply ignores it. She stays with the cookies, with the children, with the truth. Jeb didn't need a second visit. The first time he saw Aunt T's place, he already knew. He didn't want to go back. He had recognized peace and wanted no part of the scream. "I'm just a natural-born screamer." Jeb says it early, a throwaway line until you really hear it. He's not screaming. He's been screamed into, and now he thinks that's who he is. This is what the ego does. It teaches you pain and then says you're the one who caused it. Jeb wonders aloud, "Maybe I've been bad and just didn't know it." That's not confession. That's confusion. The guilt of the separated self. Trying to explain why love is missing and deciding it must be his fault. Feet of clay. Rod Serling narrates, "Don't look too closely behind the facade. The idol may have feet of clay." This is the great revelation. The parents are statues of success, but hollow. They tell their kids, "If it hadn't been for you two, we wouldn't have stayed together this long." That's not love. That's guilt repackaged as duty. That's the ego's God. Little g. A God who punishes, who withholds, who demands sacrifice. But Aunt T never demands. She invites. She opens the door, but only you can walk through. She tells them, sometimes they come through the pool. Sometimes they come down chimneys. Sometimes I just open the door and there they are. That's how the Holy Spirit works. He meets the mind wherever it is, and gently leads it home. A world without screaming. At Aunt T's place, the children play. They do chores, they bake cakes, they laugh, they fight, but not like before. Here, even the fights are make-believe. Boxing gloves and cookie breaks. Sport learns that not all conflict must end in crying. That disagreement doesn't mean danger. That love isn't withdrawn when mistakes are made. She doesn't have to beg to grow up quietly. She is allowed to be. Choosing again. After their first visit, the children return home. They test the waters of the old world, and nothing has changed. Their parents promised them Disneyland, Ohio, and even the North Pole. But it's all just noise. The ego will say anything to keep the dream alive. Then comes the second divorce announcement. The same lines, the same blame. And this time Sport and Jeb dive into the pool with clarity. And they don't come back. Aunt T welcomes them again. But this time she says, "I don't expect I'll be seeing you anymore." Why? Because when you find real love, you don't return to illusion. And if love was truly waiting in the parents' world, Aunt T would have told them to go. But it wasn't. So they stayed. Final words. The bewitching pool isn't fantasy. It's forgiveness. It's a symbol of the decision-making mind choosing again. The ego makes noise. The spirit makes space. And when the last voice of guilt fades into nothing, you find yourself in a place where love is not earned, but simply remembered. So here's the only question that remains. Are you still standing on the edge of the pool, waiting to be invited again? Or are you ready to dive and stay? The world judges the form, but the spirit sees the content. The world calls The Bewitching Pool one of the worst episodes in Twilight Zone history. It laughs at the voice dubbing. It critiques the acting. It mocks the awkward pacing, the poorly looped audio, the ADR so mismatched it breaks illusion. And this is exactly how the ego watches everything. It fixates on form. It misses the meaning. Because the ego cannot see past the surface, it was made to protect it. The production team blamed the director. The writer blamed the actors. The critics blamed the budget. And no one stopped to ask, what is this story actually saying? The voice that didn't matched the lesson. Yes, the voices don't match the lips. But isn't that the exact experience of a mind trying to make peace in a world that doesn't echo it? Isn't that what projection is? A voice inside you says, I want peace, but the body says, I'm under attack. The inner voice of innocence is always dubbed over by a louder, false narrative. Even in production failure, the spirit speaks. The world sees corny, the spirit sees Christ. What the world calls cringe, we call clarity. What the world calls cheesy, we call choice. Because this story ends with one of the most powerful images ever broadcast. Two children turning their backs on a house of war and diving into a pool of peace they don't explain to anyone. Sport hears her parents calling one last time and goes back to baking cookies because love is not a summons. It's a remembrance. She remembers what they forgot and she stays. Form will always fail you. Content will never leave you. Rod Serling gave the world black and white parables so full of meaning they still echo 60 years later. But this final episode, the critics judged it broken. And maybe it was, but love doesn't need flawless packaging. Forgiveness doesn't ask for perfect lighting. And truth has never once waited on better editing. God hides his voice in the mouths the world rejects. And sometimes, even in a dubbed-over child actor who couldn't match her own lips, the kingdom still whispers through. Final question. So what's worse? A badly looped voice track? Or a world that never heard the message? Are you still trying to get the acting right? Or are you ready to drop the script entirely? Because the pool is still there. The door is still open. And Aunt T still has cookies in the oven. But only the decision-making mind can hear that invitation. So ask yourself, mighty companion, what did you come to see, the actors or the author?